All right. So everybody, thanks so much for listening to the show. We really appreciate it. If you're listening to us for the first time, please like, subscribe, share on the podcast. And if you're listening to us somewhere else, thanks so much. Tell your friends, your family, whoever the heck you can get your hands on. We greatly appreciate it. We have a really special guest that's got an incredible story coming on today, a man that I've met, and we've talked a little bit on the phone, now in person. Well, Zoom, I guess. I guess that's somewhat in person, but this is Staff Sergeant Jason Morgan, and he is going to be talking about his incredible story and also about his book, A Dog Called Hope. We're going to get into that too. So first of all, Jason, thanks for your service, and I appreciate that. And also, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate that also.
Thank you. That means a lot. I really appreciate it.
All right, so can you tell the audience a little bit about you and your journey?
Wow, my journey. Do we have like a couple hours? Yeah, I was 18 years old. Our golf team just won the state championship, and we all got scholarships and went to college on a golf scholarship. Kind of thought that's the route I was taking, and started playing like really bad. And kind of just golf has that way of getting to you every once in a while, and lost my ride and I always wanted to serve and went into the U.S. Air Force. And it was a great decision. I love my job. I was a meteorologist and also a combat meteorologist. So not only went through like a year and a half of school of weather, which is one of the hardest schools in the Air Force, but then I had to go through the special operations school, like jump school and different things like that. And so, my job was to do weather for special operations, and just it was a great job, very challenging. So I was Air Force, the Gray Berets, but I worked for the Army Special Forces. And that's what I did for 10 years. And that's kind of.
So when we go into the story, as far as that goes, can you speak about June of '99 and how that mission changed your life?
Sure. So we're going to South America, to Ecuador, for a counter-narcotics mission. And we'd been there I was with Special Forces in the Army 160th, which is a helicopter unit from Black Hawk Down, and it's also a helicopter unit that got bin Laden. They do all the special ops. So we always were doing crazy stuff and, black ops and different things. And so we're down in Ecuador, and we brought a crew of a couple of helicopters, and we were doing counter-narcotics missions. So we're teaching the Ecuadorian Special Forces how to combat a group there called the FARC, which is a drug terrorist group there. It's kind of like Al Qaeda in South America, and they're pretty big. They have their own army, and they kind of control the region of southern Colombia and northern Ecuador. So that's where we were. And so one of our helicopters broke down, and they needed to go get a part, which was like an 8-hour drive to fly it in, because they're out in the middle of nowhere. So they asked for volunteers to go with the driver, because it was kind of a dangerous mission, and we're driving right through the FARC country just in a vehicle. So me and my buddy volunteered, and yeah, that's the day that definitely changed my life. We were attacked from the rear, so I was hanging out of the SUV, trying to disable the vehicle behind us, and our driver kind of freaked and went off the road, and the vehicle just started flipping down the ravine. Since I was already halfway hanging out, I flipped out, and then the vehicle rolled over top of me and like smashed me face down in the water, and kept going. And the only reason I'm here today is because American missionary stopped and saw the skid marks and saw the vehicle. And he told me, I don't think this is in the book, but because I met him a few years ago, and he told me when he was back in the US, and he said, the only way I found you, I was trying to make a safe way down the mountainside, and I stepped on you because I was face down and covered in mud. So I wasn't even visible. And that's why he found me and pulled me over and started breathing again. So that had crushed. I had numerous injuries, but the biggest thing is that it crushed my back, and basically like my spinal cord went, like sideways. So I was paralyzed from the waist down, among many other situations. I was also a drowning victim. I had one lung full of water, and the other one had collapsed. And we're at 14,000 feet, so it's amazing I was even able to breathe at all. That's about as high as Pikes Peak. So it was, I think sometimes I got I'm in a wheelchair. I got severe nerve pain, everything else, but really, I'm just fortunate to be here, and we'll take it from there.
Right. So after that, and you talk about, I don't know if you talk about this in the book, but I've saw multiple videos about your story in general. And it's kind of tough because not only were you in that pain when you went home, you obviously had 3 kids. There was stuff that happened there. I don't know if you want to go into that part of the
Yeah, it's okay.
story, if that's okay.
Yes, it's all right.
Right.
Yeah. So, and even I just got to thank the military too, because even getting me out of the country was tough because a medevac plane, since we weren't supposed to be there, they couldn't fly like a regular U.S. Air Force or U.S. Army medevac plane on the side. They had to actually get a generic plane. I think it was the Army Chief of Staff loaned out his plane. It's generic for safety reasons, security reasons. And they medevaced it out and came and got me and brought me back. I was home within, I think, 48 hours. And half that time was the flight time. But yeah, so I came back and I spent, out of the next 7 years, I spent 3.5 years in the hospital. It was rough. I think I was brought back to life at 3 times, during those times. And, and just, all I want to do is my first thing was like, let's start simple. I just want to be a good husband and a good father. And the last time I was in the hospital for like 11 months, my wife told me she was not going to be there when she got home. She had met someone else. So not only she left me, but she left the boys too. So in a way that was a blessing though, because it gave me some sort of purpose. Like I have to take care of these 3 young kids. And it was not easy from a chair. I mean, even from the things you want to do when you want to throw them around or wrestle with them on the floor and all these things that I would teach them sports. It was hard to do from a chair. Like we played football, we had to go in the street because it's the only where my wheelchair would roll, and not the safest thing to do, but we, adapted and overcame. We did what we could do. And so I raised my boys from when they were probably, I think they were like 5, 7, and 8 till now. Now they're all in their 20s and out of the house. That's why it's so quiet in here right now. But yeah, it was tough, but rewarding. It was rewarding.
You've went through a lot of these trying times and really, soared above it. What would you tell people that are suffering right now from whatever they are that maybe, helped you get through all these tough times that you just kind of spoke about so far?
Yeah, that's kind of that's a tough question, but I would have to say, what helped me was that I relied on, I found the right tools to help me. I mean, whether that could be your faith, your family, your friends, getting a service dog, but, seeking help, which is, I think, hard for many of the veterans to, especially for PTSD and other things that they have, but I would say find out what's out there. And, you can really rely on your friends and different things, but there are stuff out there to help. You just need to kind of go out there and find it, do some research and find it. But there is ways to overcome adversity. And believe me, I've had a lot of adversity and I live a good life, successful life. And but it took hard work. I mean, it's not something you can just snap your fingers and it'll be over. It's got to take work, and you got to be able to work at it, each and every day, but you can get through it. It is possible.
Again, for people that are listening, Staff Sergeant Jason Morgan here on Fire Breathing Rob. The book is A Dog Called Hope. Can you talk about Canine Companions for Independence? How did you first hear about the organization?
So, it's funny because my therapy was giving back, was serving, and that's what I was doing. There's a organization called Challenge Air here in Dallas, and they fly kids with disabilities. And I was a pilot before I got hurt, and so I worked with this organization and flying now with hand controls actually. But so anyway, we let these kids fly, and it's amazing because when they think, I could fly an airplane, I could do anything. And so we teach them the basics and go around for like 20 minutes. They take over the controls. It was pretty good, but pretty neat organization. But Canine Companions had a booth over there, and they told me about these amazing service dogs. And I thought, I don't think I'd be able to apply. I'm a single dad and I raised 3 boys on my own. Like, they're not going to let me get a dog. And I wasn't, but I mean, realistically, as a perfect candidate, and I applied for it, and which was, and got this amazing dog. And, I know I looked at their dogs right there, and I've always been a dog lover, but, I had no idea how much a dog would change my life. It was amazing. They were,
But were you
but,
always a dog person? Sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
Jason.
yeah,
Okay.
always. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was pretty excited that I was able to get a dog that I could keep 24/7, this $60,000 highly trained dog, that I didn't have to pay a dime for. Just was amazing. So I went to California and I had to go there for 2 weeks. So you work with like 3 or 4 dogs, and they, after like the third day, they kind of pre-match you with a dog they think works best for you. And so I was pre-matched with this awesome dog named Nepal, and we were instantly best buddies. Well, I mean, it was an instant bond. And so, but we have to go to school for 3 weeks or 2 weeks to teach us what the dog knows. They have to teach us because the dogs, how to use the right commands and different training methods and stuff like that. And so, but yeah, great organization.
Can you speak about Nepal and how he changed your life?
Yeah, I think, and so the dogs knows about, like I said, about 50 commands. I didn't use all of them, but that's what they're trained to do. But he can open and close doors, turn light switches on and off. He can like get my clothes out of the dryer. He hadn't learned how to fold them yet, but we're working on that. But it's not really, that was a big help because, like especially dropping objects from my chair. I put stuff in my lap all the time and in my wheelchair, and then they always fall off. And like my service dog Yago, which I'll bring him here in a minute, he instantly grabs it. I don't even have to tell him. He knows, and he grabs it and he brings it to me. But it's not just that, it's just a companionship, because it's like, I have my buddy there. I call it my battle buddy, which we did in the military. You guys that had your 6 was your battle buddy. And that's what I called him. And he just always had my back. And, the companionship that we had were just amazing. And so like before I got my dog, I'd like go to the store and it seemed like I was ignored. Like I had like COVID or something, like a big sign that says, stay away, I have COVID. And, but, because people didn't know I was military, they didn't know why I was in a chair, and they just assumed just kind of stay away. And then, it was frustrating because I'm a really outgoing person. I felt like I was almost like cut off from society of a country that I almost gave my life for, and
Yeah.
it was frustrating. But I remember the first day I brought Nepal into the store with me, and he like went into the dog section, grabbed it, he picked out his own dog toy, and and people were amazed by this dog, and everyone wanted to. I think I met everyone in the store that day. I'm sure I didn't, but it seemed that way. There's no quit going in to get some bread and milk anymore, but everyone went to meet my dog. They got to meet me and hear my story, and it was just like it was I went from like a zero to a rock star, and just almost instantaneously.
Why do you feel like that is, that people shy away from people with disabilities, people in wheelchairs, whatever it may be?
I think it's just ignorance, just not knowing. I don't think they have any intent to be mean or anything like that. I think they just don't know, and don't know why you're in the chair. So they just kind of avoid a maybe uneasy situation for them, or difficult situation. I think it's hard to say really, but I hope I wasn't like that before I was in a chair, but I sure could have been. I don't remember that far. It's like, I can only remember like from my chair, like the last 20 years, it seems like, but.
No, because I see that too, that, when people are walking around with the dogs, they will come up to you. But if you don't have the dog, they just kind of shy away and just,
They do.
Maybe that's just society. I don't know. I agree with you. It could be. Go ahead.
The kids are a lot better, because the kids come up to me and they're like, oh, so what? Because I had my leg amputated as well. And they said, oh, what happened to your leg? And then the parents like, oh, don't say that, so rude. I'm like, no, it's fine. He's just asking, but yeah. So the kids are always cool. They always just want to know like what happened or whatever. But for some reason the parents think that's rude to come up and ask me that, which maybe it is for some people, but sure not me. I don't mind sharing.
So when we talk about Canine Companions for Independence, you kind of gave a little brief synopsis about the organization and how they've helped you. What do you feel like people that don't know about the organization, as far as, because everybody, people adopt dogs all the time. People get dogs in general, or have dogs, and they say their dog is the best. What would you say is the difference between a canine companion dog and another service dog, or just another general dog in general?
Yeah. So with my dog, I can have my food, whatever I can. I can leave it on a table that he could get to and leave the room for 10 minutes, use the restroom or go get something else and come back and my food will still be there. With another dog, that will never happen. But, yeah, a lot of people ask me, they're like, I want to get my dog trained. It's a good pet. And, I tell them, yeah, then leave it as a pet. If you want a service dog, get the real thing. Because there's a lot of fake service dogs out there and you see them all the time. And, they're the kind that you can put them underneath the table while you're eating and the waiter will never know they're there. And they're not licking the food on the ground that people dropped earlier or whatever. And, it's like, and if you have to walk across grates, like in some downtown areas, most dogs wouldn't even go on a surface like that, or scared to get on a train or a bus or, different things. And, these dogs are trained to do all this. So, they think their dog can be trained in 3 months. They could do all this. So just to let you know, with canine companion dogs, they breed their own dogs. They have their own breeding program. So they use the best of the best breeders to start with. And then these dogs are trained for 2 years. And even after that, only like less than 50% of their dogs make it through. So, if you think you can get your own pet to go through a thing for 3 weeks or 3 months to become that kind of dog, it's just not going to happen. I don't think they realize everything that's involved to be an actual service dog. You could have a cat walk in front of you and the dog will just not pull at your leash and try to run after it,
Can you talk about the endangerment that these dogs are, not just to you, Jason, and your service dog, but also to the regular general public and their well-being too?
Well, yeah. So first of all, they give real service dogs a bad reputation. So people are going to be less willing to help us or let us into their place because they've had issues with dogs in the past. Second of all, it's like if I'll go into like Home Depot, they allow any kind of dogs in there, and which is fine, but like, keep your dog away from my dog. I don't know if your dogs have had shots. I don't know if your dog is aggressive. I know mine's not. I know mine's fully vaccinated. So you don't know if, because we're not even supposed to take our dogs even to a dog park, but you never know what type of dog you're associating your dog with. And, I've had dogs like growl and bark at my dog in public. I'm like, there's no way that's a service dog. Like if the canine companion, if their dog shows any aggression at all, anytime through the 2 years are out of the course completely. They just can't have that. And I don't know, it just seems like but the good thing is that the airlines are cracking down. No more emotional support dogs on planes and stuff. I think that the deal is that people think their dog is an emotional support dog and they can take it anywhere they want to go, but they can't. They can have it in an apartment or a house or in a hotel, and that's pretty much it. I think the rest of the problem is that the owners are not knowing what the rules are. And, if you have a dog that barks or urinates in public or shows some sort of aggression, you can kick the dog out, service dog or not. So I think they're always too scared to, like I was in a restaurant the other day and this woman put the dog up, this little chihuahua or whatever, put it up on the table to like eat the rest of her food. And I'm like, that's disgusting,
Yeah.
And the owner came up to me and he says, I see you like have a service dog that's under the table and not doing. It's like, I'm like, you don't have to allow that. You can tell her to leave. Like if it's, whatever it's doing, if it's not doing the right thing. I'm a service dog like a restaurant should be hidden. The best compliment I can get is like, oh, I didn't even know you had a service dog. That's the way it should be. Your service dog reacts and does things when you need it, but the rest of the time it stays put and it's at your side.
Okay.
Go ahead. We're good.
Yeah, no worries. So,
all
right. So we do see Yago, and as we keep going into the interview, again, Jason Morgan here on Fire Breathing Rob, we're going to start talking about the book, and the book is again A Dog Called Hope. Jason, we see Yago on here, and since he's over here, we'll kind of drift into this question. So you've had two, Nepal has passed. You do have a retired dog, Roo, and now Yago. Can you talk about those three dogs in general? You kind of gave us some talking
Yeah.
about Nepal, but Roo and Yago too.
Yeah. And, when I first got Nepal, it was, I didn't know what to expect. And I remember the first day they had their dorm rooms at Canine Companions. And I remember after they got pre-matched with them after the third day, and so I laid down, they had like a single bed and then a double bed. I was there by myself, and usually you have families that go with you. And so anyway, I laid down on the single bed, and you can have them come up on the bed, with your, whatever you want to do. And so I did, and he just laid right on my chest. And I thought maybe there just wasn't enough room, and pretty heavy. He was like 70 pounds. So the next night I went to the double bed and laid down, and I brought him up on the bed, and he again laid right on over my chest. And it was, and I remember walking out out of my room. Like I said, I didn't shut the door all the way, walked down my room to the regular area where they have like a common area. And everyone says, "Hey, Jason, I think you need to look behind you." I did. And like Nepal was like sticking his head around the corner. It's like he was checking on me. He did that his whole life. Like if I was outside, he would and maybe he didn't want to be outside, he would stick his head through the dog door, look at me for a few minutes, and then go back inside. And he'd sit by the window. Like the bond that you have is just amazing. Like Yago, and then he was kind of laid back and stuff. And then when he passed away, then I got my second dog, Roo, and I told him that I was wanting a dog that's a little more adventurous and high energy. And boy, was she. I remember that. So I'll just tell you like the first day with them, because that just shows how different they are, right? They all do the same things and train the same way. But so, with Nepal, the first time I got him alone in my room, he crawled up and, just laid over the top of me. And I thought, this is good. I'm going to do this with Roo, and we're going to bond, and I have her lay next to me or on top of me. And we're just going to bond and get to know each other, because I worked for 3 days before then, but you only, they get them out of the kennel. They put the leash and stuff and vest on them. We do whatever they want us to do, and then it goes back in the kennel. So there's no really time to really interact with the dog until now. This is our first time. So I remember I let Roo out. They brought her over here, and I let her out of the kennel. They had my room, and she jumped from one bed to the other and did that 10 times in a circle. I'm like, oh my God, what have I got here? And yeah, it's just they're so different. They do the same things, but they're so different. But Canine Companions is so good about matching you the right dog with your personality and what you do. They almost say the dog picks you, and like my bond with Yago, it's amazing how that bond is it's instantaneous how you immediately bond with that dog. They just I don't know. It's hard to describe it, but it's a very incredible thing.
How tall? How tall? How old is Roo?
So Roo just retired. She is almost 10 years old.
Okay.
And she is living with my twin sister in Style. So they got some land, and yeah, I see her all the time. I just saw her I think I saw her yesterday. And but yeah, she's enjoying. She's put a few extra pounds on, but well deserved. But yeah, so yeah, usually I knew it was time to retire Roo. She just stopped wanting to work. You don't want a dog to work if they don't want to. The dogs work because they love doing it. They love pleasing me, and they get rewarded with praise, a lot of praise and stuff. But that just kind of stopped, and I'm like, okay, it's time for her she's not enjoying it anymore. And I have to tell her 3 times to go get something sometimes, and it's just, yeah. So it's time to just retire them, right, which is hard to do.
I definitely can understand that. Let's talk about the book again for people that are listening. Staff Sergeant Jason Morgan here on Fire Breathing Rob, A Dog Called Hope. Let's talk about A Dog Called Hope. Can you tell the audience a little synopsis about the book?
Sure. So, the book was written by Damian Lewis. I guess my name's on the book too, but it's really written by Damian Lewis, who's an incredible writer, and he was able to get things out of me that I would never talk about in my family. Like when I spent my time in a coma, when I was day to day, he's got a great, I didn't even know about this stuff until I read the book. and he just did an amazing job. He actually heard my story while he was in England. He lives in England.
Oh, wow.
And heard my story, contacted me, and he used to be a war journalist. And then he's written at least 20 something books and some bestsellers, and some about, working dogs and different things, war dogs and stuff. And it just seemed like a good fit, but he contacted me and said, I want to write your story. And I said, I think you're wasting your time. I just don't think anything is extraordinary here. Like what you're saying, it's just my everyday life. And I'm glad I didn't listen to me now, because it's now published in like 5 countries, 6 countries, including Russia. And it's won several international awards, and it's done really well. But anyway, it just kind of takes me through, my military career, and then when I got hurt, and then after I got hurt. But the main part of it is just how my life changed when I got my service dog, Nepal. And it goes through Nepal's whole life, actually. And when Nepal suddenly passed away, Damian Lewis was actually here writing the book. He was there with me when my dog passed. So it's, you're going to cry. I'm just going to let you know. But it's done really well. I'm very, very pleased with the book. I was a little bit hesitant knowing that everyone knows my story, that's makes me a little nervous, and not something I feel comfortable with. But I hear so many stories about how my book has really changed their life, or help them go through a scenario, how it's really touched them. When I read that, it's all good,
What do you hope people get out of the book?
I just think that one thing is maybe a greater appreciation for our servicemen is one. Another thing is that, about that there are people struggling out there. And that I think in that for most people is that, like we talked about earlier, with the right tools, you can overcome adversity. Right. I had everything from brain surgery to, snipping my spinal cord to try to help with my nerve pain, and nothing ever worked. And, it was just kind of trial and error, and just keep pushing through it. It took a lot of work on my part to get to where I am now. I have time to tell a quick story of just kind of about, so I was training to do, this organization contacted me to do the Marine Corps marathon. And I was really excited to do that. I've never done a marathon, but it was like on my bucket list before I was injured. And so I'm like, oh, wow, now I can actually do one. I did some short distance racing in the military Paralympics, but, never anything more than like a mile. I did track and field, like the 100 meter, 200 meter, and in the mile. So a little different doing 26.2 miles. And so I started training for 5 months. It was like 6 months away. And I was about 6 weeks away from this event. I got a blister on my heel. And then, or while I was training, and about 6 weeks away from the event, it got like really bad. And all of a sudden my foot just swelled up like double the size. I mean, it was massive. Immediately went to the ER, and I'll make this long story short, but the infection went into my bone, and they told me they had to amputate my leg. And the doctor came in there. I was with Nepal. The doctor came in there and goes, really, you got 2 choices. One, we can try to keep your leg, and we're going to have to, you could be in the hospital for a year. We might not be able to save it. Another thing is what my suggestion is, go ahead and amputate it. He goes, I'll be back in a little bit for you to make your decision. I'm like, well, 10 minutes. Did I keep my leg or not? And when he left, like you saw Yago get on my lap, and they're really intuitive about when you're with a dog 24/7. Like my dog knows when I'm hurting. He'll like come and rest his head on my lap or crawl on my lap. And Nepal did the same thing. He crawled up on my lap, and he just kind of looked at me like, we can do this. I mean, that might seem strange, but when you spend that much time with a dog, you can read each other. He knew I was upset about something. I was pretty upset, obviously. And I'm like, you know what? My decision is not to keep my leg or not. My decision is that when they take my leg, am I going to go back into that dark place that I was at, 15 plus years ago when I first was paralyzed and I was in that dark world, or am I going to go and like do my dreams and do this marathon? And that was kind of like my decision. He came back in there and said, okay, take this leg as soon as possible. He goes, I have a marathon in less than 6 weeks, and I'm really wanting to do this. And he really thought that I wouldn't be able to do the marathon. The amount of time in the hospital right before the marathon, he said, you're going to lose all that training that you've already done. And but he said, I said, is it possible? He goes, yeah, it's possible. And, you know, they did a great job. I got out of the hospital a lot quicker than expected. The physical therapist there at Baylor, Scott and White, made this great brace for my legs. So my stitches were protected, because the way that you sit in my racer, my legs are like tucked behind me. So when my other leg, I couldn't do that. And, you know, I was, I think I was out of the hospital in 10 days on a Friday. And then Monday I was back in the gym training. Anyway, I did this marathon, you know, and I think that's where the point I was at. And when I finished this marathon and Nepal was waiting for me, a good friend of mine was keeping Nepal during this marathon. He's waiting for me at the finish line. And it's like, I just kept thinking, I cannot wait to see my dog. And I just can't, you know, it's like, and then the people that I was in the marathon with that trained me, they were there. They jumped on the course. It was like, this was during Hurricane Sandy too. So it made it 4 times harder than it was supposed to be. And they jumped on the course with me and found me and ran the rest of the way with me. Like, come on, you can do it. And they were like pushing me. And the guy that trained me, Bill Cinder, he was a Marine. And he was like, hey, this is one of our wounded warriors. Let's cheer. As the crowd started getting bigger towards the end, he was trying to get everyone to cheer me on, because he knew like I was really struggling, because with the rain and stuff, my hands were just sliding across my push runs, because, you know, on a regular wheelchair, you grip the push runs. And so rain is not that big of a deal. On these, with your fists, like you push down on them. So with the rain, they were like sliding. And anyway, struggling. And I did it. I was trying to do it in like 3 hours, but it was like 4 hours when I came across, which I guess still isn't bad, but the main thing was just finishing. But anyway, when I finished that, it's like, I felt like there was nothing that I couldn't do. You know, I was like on top of the world. It's like, I just, you know, I guess normally no one should have done this marathon, and no one would have doubted me if I said, hey, I just got my leg amputated. I think I'm going to try to do this next year. But I didn't, you know, I pushed through, and I'm so glad I did. That was one of the biggest turning points in my life, just knowing that I felt like there was nothing that I couldn't do. And like I said earlier, it takes a lot of work to get through these problems, and doing that marathon was a lot of work, but that's what I needed to do to get myself through it, you know, to each its own.
What's next for you right now?
That's a big question. So, you know, I just got married in April to this amazing woman. And so kind of my whole life has changed a little bit. You know, I've kind of settled down a little bit, but I think we were talking the other day that maybe we got another marathon in the works. So she's run a lot, probably 6 or 7, maybe 10 marathons.
Wow.
And she hadn't done one in a while. So they might maybe doing a marathon together. But, you know, right now I'm you know, COVID kind of put a hamper in it. I love speaking, and I love going to different places, and things are opening up again. So I'm really enjoying Yago and I touring the country and speaking different places and giving people hope. That's, you know, I just really want to expand on that, because that's, you know, that's what I love to do. I love to make a difference in someone else's life, as many people has made a difference in my life.
Last question. This is an audience question. So we talk about, and I kind of just dealt with this, and you know the story. We talk about loss. I'm mourning a loss of a dog as special as Nepal, as special as Shawnee. In my case, it's really hard, regardless if there's another one coming down the pike or not. You talked about that special bond that, you and Nepal had throughout all your struggles in life, and he rather really pushed you through this. Can you talk about mourning a loss of a special canine companion's dog like Nepal?
Yeah, I'd rather not, but no.
I hear you.
Yeah, just don't cry on me. All right, no.
I know. I try not to.
Yeah, it was really tough, and Nepal's death was very unexpected. You know, he got cancer, and just in 3 or 4 days, he went from you know, not feeling good to like really, really bad. And of course, I didn't want him to suffer any more than he had to. Yeah, I almost felt like it was a part of me that I lost. You know, I mean, when he was gone, not just mourning him not being there, but I just felt like a part of me was missing. I mean, it's really hard to describe it. Like I just felt really empty inside. Like I would go to the store again, and then everyone's ignoring me again. Like I'm back to where I was before, you know, which I never even thought about. And I'm like, I just miss my buddy so much. And you know, I think to the audience, they can't really understand a dog. I mean, they might have a pet that they spend a few hours with every day, but this dog is with me 24/7 all the time.
Yeah.
And I rely on this guy. I rely on my dog to help me through the day. And as he relies on me, you know, it's like we're this partnership. And when he was gone, I just felt like half of me was missing. It was extremely tough, really tough.
God.
I like to tell you a real quick story. I'm in there. So
Sure.
I think, as you know, is that I lost my dad recently on Thanksgiving. Right. And my dad and I were extremely close. Our whole family is very tight, very close. And so he had pancreatic cancer, which there's no cure from. And when they diagnosed him, they found out it was already stage 4. So he went down pretty fast. And towards the end, it was affecting his liver. So he couldn't think clearly in different things, and it was tough to see him. So, but he was in the hospital. This was like a week before he passed, right before he came home on hospice. And so he's always in the hospital bed, but they had set him up on this recliner chair and he was there. And my dog, Yago, would not leave his side. Like he put his head on his lap the entire time. It's like nobody else in the room. He completely ignored me. I'm sure if I'd have called him, he would have came. But, and then all of a sudden, like one paw at a time, he climbed up on my dad's lap. And it's like he just knew. And it was like a very beautiful thing. And my wife was there, and my mom was there, and we're just like, we couldn't believe it. And you know, I have a picture. That's the last picture I have with my dad, was me over there with the dog in his lap, you know. And these dogs are really, really special.
For people that want to find more about Jason, where can they find more about you? I know you have a website. Is there anywhere else they can find more?
No, my website will direct you. So right now I'm in the works of doing a YouTube channel. I'm going to start putting a GoPro on my dog so everyone can see what he does out in public. So that's coming up in the works here very soon, probably the start of the new year. But that'll all be from my website. You'll be able to get to it on it's Staff Sergeant JasonMorgan.com, which is ssgtjasonmorgan.com.
Jason Morgan, thanks so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoyed it.